There have been thousands of players who have transferred to new programs this offseason. The quarterback position has had a number of pretty solid names end up at new schools. A lot of these moves could truly be program altering for the 2023 season and beyond. Today, we'll be taking a look at the top 10 quarterbacks who have transferred to new programs this offseason. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe. It's one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm posting college football videos all off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. We'll kick off today's video with former NC State quarterback Devin Larry, who transferred to Kentucky. Now, if you guys were here last offseason, you would know that I was very high on Devin Larry and NC State entering the 2022 season. I had him on every Heisman list, and I legitimately thought that he could potentially be the Heisman Trophy winner in 2022. But unfortunately, his season was cut short due to injury, and it was just an overall forgettable season for Larry. In 6 games with NC State, he completed 61% of his passes for 1,200 yards with 11 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Over the course of a 12-game season, that would be good for only 2,500 yards and 22 passing touchdowns. This is coming off an incredible 2021 campaign when Larry was truly one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. He threw for over 3,400 yards with 35 passing touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. Kentucky was already a pretty good team with Will Levis as their quarterback, but I think by adding Larry, they're actually getting an upgrade at the position. There are going to be a number of really good quarterbacks in the SEC next season, but by adding Larry in the transfer portal, Kentucky has one of the best in the entire conference. Speaking of NC State, they found their new quarterback in Brennan Armstrong, who entered the transfer portal after spending a few seasons with Virginia. Just like with Devin Larry, Brennan Armstrong was one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football in 2021. Just 2 seasons ago, he completed 65% of his passes for nearly 4,500 yards. He also threw 31 touchdown passes while rushing in 9 scores as well. He was one of a handful of quarterbacks that totaled 40 touchdowns in 2021. But the 2022 campaign was a complete disaster for Armstrong. He completed only 54% of his passes for 2,200 yards while throwing 7 touchdowns with 12 interceptions. He did add 400 yards on the ground with 6 rushing scores, but this was a completely different looking player than the one we saw in 2021. I get that 2022 was a really down season for Brennan Armstrong, but you don't throw for 4,400 yards and have 40 touchdowns in a season by accident. I didn't follow Virginia football too closely last season, so I'm not exactly certain what went wrong for Armstrong. But if he's able to replicate what he did in 2021, this could turn out to be one of the best transfer moves of the entire offseason. It was only a couple years ago in which it looked like Uele would be the clear-cut #1 pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Well, not only is he not going to be in the draft, he's not even going to be at Clemson this season. Instead, he transferred to Oregon State, where he'll be their new starting quarterback. After looking like he was going to be the next great Clemson quarterback, the last 2 seasons just didn't go well for Uele. Now, his 2022 campaign did go a lot better, but he still was pretty underwhelming considering he was one of the top quarterback recruits of his entire class. In 13 games this past season for the Tigers, he completed 62% of his passes for 2,500 yards. He threw a career-high 22 passing touchdowns. He also added over 500 yards on the ground with 7 rushing scores as well. Oregon State is one of the up-and-coming teams in college football, and they could be a legitimate threat in the Pac-12 next season. Well, with how good Oregon State was this season, they really didn't have any good quarterback play at all. By adding Uele, they could be a legitimate top 15 team in all of college football. And maybe with a change of scenery, Uele can finally reach expectations. Probably one of the least surprising moves of the entire offseason was Shedeur Sanders transferring from Jackson State to Colorado. This past season for Jackson State, he threw for 3,400 yards with 40 passing touchdowns while adding 200 yards on the ground and 5 rushing scores as well. He's probably going to have more expectations than any other quarterback on this list. If you guys remember, there was an article a couple weeks ago from Fox Sports in which they listed him as the #1 Heisman Trophy candidate entering the 2023 season. Now, he certainly could be in the Heisman running next season, but considering Colorado won only 1 game last season, we're going to have to see probably the greatest season from a college football quarterback ever if he's going to be winning the Heisman Trophy. But stranger things have happened, and I'm not going to rule anything out. One of the recent quarterbacks who just ended up at a new program is Sam Hartman, who transferred from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. After spending the last 5 seasons with the Demon Deacons, Hartman decided it was time for a new chapter. Well, this is going to be probably the best quarterback Notre Dame has had in quite some time. During his career at Wake Forest, Hartman threw for just under 13,000 yards with 110 passing touchdowns. He also rushed for nearly 1,000 yards with 17 rushing scores as well. Over the last 2 seasons, Sam Hartman has emerged as one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. In 2021, Hartman threw for over 4,200 yards with 39 passing touchdowns while rushing in 11 touchdowns as well. I mean, I don't care what conference you're playing in, but the fact that he was putting up 50 touchdowns in the ACC was truly remarkable. Fast forward to the 2022 campaign, and it looked like Hartman potentially could miss the entire season with a medical issue. Instead, he missed only 1 game and still had one of the best seasons in all of college football. In 12 games, Hartman completed a career-high 63% of his passes. He also threw for 3,700 yards with 38 passing touchdowns. I mean, just over the last 2 seasons alone, Hartman has thrown 77 passing touchdowns and has thrown for nearly 8,000 yards. He's also a threat on the ground, as he's rushed for 500 yards with 12 rushing scores over the last 2 seasons. Pittsburgh is going to have their 3rd different starting quarterback in 3 years, as former Boston College quarterback Phil Dracovic transferred in. Dracovic spent 3 seasons as Boston College's starting quarterback after spending 2 seasons with Notre Dame. He had a career year in 2020 when he threw for 2,500 yards with 17 passing touchdowns while rushing in 3 touchdowns as well. However, injuries really limited his last 2 seasons, as he appeared in a total of only 14 games. Over the last 2 seasons for Boston College, Dracovic has thrown for 2,700 yards with only 18 passing touchdowns and 12 interceptions. If he's able to stay healthy in 2023, this could be a very underrated pickup for Pittsburgh, so he's definitely a name to keep an eye on next year. Last year's quarterback at Pittsburgh, Keaton Slovas, is going to be at his 3rd program, as he'll be at BYU in 2023. After emerging as one of the top young quarterbacks in the country in 2019, things just haven't gone well for Keaton Slovas ever since. His time at USC came to an end, so he transferred to Pittsburgh in 2022, where he replaced Kenny Pickett. But it was arguably Slovas' worst season of his career. He completed a career-low 58% of his passes while throwing a career-low 10 passing touchdowns in 11 games. The talent is clearly there for Slovas, as he threw for over 3,500 yards with 30 touchdowns as a freshman back in 2019. Even during a shortened COVID season in 2020, he still threw for 2,000 yards with 17 touchdowns in only 6 games. But in 20 games over his last 2 seasons, Slovas has thrown for only 21 touchdowns with 17 interceptions. You know what they say, 3rd time's the charm, so by transferring to BYU, maybe the Cougars are going to be able to somehow recapture what Slovas was able to do for the Trojans back in 2019. Speaking of being at their 3rd program, Tanner Mordecai is transferring from SMU to Wisconsin. This is quite the pickup for the Badgers, as Mordecai has actually been one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football over the last 2 seasons. After spending 3 seasons with Oklahoma and barely seeing the field, Mordecai transferred to SMU in 2021. In his first season as the starting quarterback, he completed 68% of his passes for 3,600 yards. He finished the season with 39 passing touchdowns as well. Well, how did he follow that up in 2022? By throwing for 3,500 yards with 33 passing touchdowns. Over the last 2 seasons alone, Mordecai's thrown for over 7,000 yards with 72 passing touchdowns. Both those are some of the best in all of college football during that time frame. Wisconsin is under new leadership with brand new head coach Luke Fickell. Wisconsin has had some pretty bad quarterbacks over the last few years, so by adding Tanner Mordecai, maybe this finally gives Wisconsin a much better offense for 2023. With some really good quarterback recruits currently at Texas, Hudson Card opted to transfer to Purdue. Card is a former 4-star recruit who spent the last 3 seasons with the Longhorns. After redshirting his first season, Card appeared in 7 games in 2021 and entered 2022 as the starting quarterback. However, Quinn Ewers transferred over, and Hudson Card lost the starting job and appeared in only 1 game after week 5. During his time at Texas, Card totaled over 1,500 passing yards with 11 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. offense. When he was out there, he showed flashes of being a really good quarterback, but he just couldn't get a full opportunity given the talent at the position with Texas. So he heads to Purdue, where he'll be replacing former quarterback Aiden O'Connell. The final quarterback on this list is one of the first that we saw transfer over a month ago in former Michigan quarterback Kade McNamara. He decided to stay in the Big Ten and transferred to Iowa. McNamara missed majority of the 2022 season after suffering a leg injury in Week 3 that required surgery. But it likely didn't matter, as JJ McCarthy was named the starting quarterback after the first 2 games of the season. In 2021, McNamara threw for over 2,500 yards with 15 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions as he led Michigan to their first outright Big Ten title since 2004, and their first ever college football playoff appearance. With his time in Michigan over, he opted to transfer to Iowa, where honestly, at this point, anything they put out there at the quarterback position is going to be an upgrade. This past season, Iowa ranked 123rd nationally in scoring and 122nd in passing. So like I mentioned, literally anything is going to be an upgrade at the position. Now, I'm not saying he's going to put up electric numbers at Iowa next year, but I really do think Kade McNamara finally gives Iowa a quarterback that's going to have them once again competing for a Big Ten title. Well, that wraps it up for today's top 10. Which quarterback from today's video do you think is going to make the biggest impact at their new program in 2023? Also, was there a quarterback who transferred this offseason that I didn't talk about in today's video? Whoever it is, let me know in the comment section down below, and I might make a part 2 to this video. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm posting videos all off-season, so make sure to subscribe if you call yourself a college football fan. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.